This is a horror narration channel, and I need to tell you what happened to me. It starts with a strange conversation, one of those casual moments where your mom says something weird, and you think nothing of it. We were in the kitchen. She was making breakfast. Then, almost offhandedly, she said, "You know, Auntie was wrestled to death by a ghost." I laughed. Of course I laughed. It sounded like something out of a bad movie, but she didn't laugh with me. She just stared at me, as if she'd seen something I hadn't. As if she knew something I didn't. That was the moment I should have taken seriously, because that night, something was waiting in the dark. And it didn't look like a ghost. It looked like family. The images shown in this video are for illustration purposes only and do not reflect the actual events of the story. Now, let me tell you what really happened. When my mom said, "Auntie was wrestled to death by a ghost," the first thing that popped into my head was a judo move I learned when I was 10 in age, where you throw your opponent over your shoulder using your hips and arms. For some reason, I imagined some ghost wrestling Auntie, and it was such a ridiculous image that I burst out laughing. My mom, expecting her ghost story to scare me, was instead met with my laughter and got angry. She flicked her finger at my forehead and scolded, "You little brat, I'm telling you this house has ghosts, so you won't sneak out of bed at night and end up running into one and you think I'm joking." She continued, "Do you even know what this villa used to be? It was a maternity clinic. Auntie was the owner and the midwife who helped women give birth here. Over the years, many women died during childbirth, and some babies died too. The neighbors say some of those deaths were due to Auntie's mistakes, and those who died became vengeful spirits. 6 months ago, one of them wrestled Auntie to death." I asked, "Mom, I've heard a lot of ghost stories, but never one where a ghost wrestled someone to death. Are the ghosts here really that violent?" My mom shook her head and replied, "I didn't believe it either, but I think the shadow you saw 2 nights in a row wasn't Aunt Nom, it was Auntie's spirit." I said, "But when I asked, Aunt Nom said she was too high to answer me." My mom spoke in a serious tone, "You didn't notice, but at first she said she didn't wake up at all. Then changed her story, saying she did wake up. She just didn't want to scare you into moving out. You know how the neighbors say no one lasts more than a week in this house, right? Aunt Nom is always terrified of being alone, so when she let us rent the place, she even offered us full access to the fruit trees just to convince us to stay." I asked, "So the shadow I saw was the ghost of Auntie, Aunt Nam's sister?" My mom, looking worried, warned me, "That's why you mustn't leave your bed at night. Just keep water by your bed for your siblings. Now hurry up and get to school." On my way to school, I couldn't stop thinking about the shadowy figure I'd seen at night, and my mom's words, "That's not Aunt Nom, that's Auntie's ghost." I wondered, can a ghost really appear that clearly? And if that was Auntie's spirit, what's so scary about her? I remembered clearly that the figure I saw looked just like Aunt Nom, no long bloody tongue, no fangs sticking out to scare me. I also remembered how our neighbor Tuyen once asked if I had ever seen a ghost, which only made me more curious. During recess, I saw her chatting with her friends and wanted to ask her, but back then, if a boy and girl talked one-on-one during break, everyone would assume they were dating and mock them, so I didn't dare. Once class resumed, I got caught up in the lesson and forgot all about the ghost story. That night, before bed, Mom handed me a can of Guigos filled with water and reminded me, "Keep this by your bed for the kids. Don't go out of the mosquito net at night." That's when I remembered the shadow I'd seen twice. I didn't know whether to call it Aunt Nam's or Auntu's shadow. If I were to use the modern Vietnamese press term for Chinese ships in the East Sea, maybe I'd call it a strange shadow. So, before sleeping, I walked around the kitchen with a small oil lamp to see if anything looked unusual. I found nothing, so I climbed into bed and fell asleep. In my dream, I was playing soccer at Thung Stadium on Nguyen Kim Street in Saigon, when suddenly my 2 younger brothers shook me awake. They were thirsty again. I sat up, handed them the water, and then looked toward the kitchen. It was too dark to see anything, so I told them, "You guys keep waking up at exactly 2 a.m. Let me check the time." I tiptoed over to the nightstand and checked the clock. It was exactly 2 o'clock. A chill ran through me. Pretending to examine the clock, I secretly glanced sideways toward the kitchen and saw her again. Aunt Nom, with her usual white blouse and neatly tied hair, sitting with her back to me. I felt less scared, but told myself to stay cautious. I gently put the clock down and walked calmly back to the bed. Once under the net, I raised a finger to my lips and motioned for my brothers to stay quiet. We lay on our stomachs, pulled the blanket up to our necks, rested our chins on our hands, and I whispered, "If anything happens, we'll hide under the blanket. Got it?" They nodded. I pointed toward the kitchen and whispered to my older brother, "Chi Siang, do you see Aunt Nam sitting over there?" He whispered back, "Yeah, I see her." I asked, "Long, do you see her?" He answered, "Yeah, she's sitting right by the wash area." That's when I thought, if we've seen that shadow 2 nights in a row and Mom says it's Aunt Tu's ghost, maybe I should try calling out to her. So I pulled the blanket up over my neck, braced myself, and said aloud, "Aunt Tu, are you haunting us?" Instantly, the shadow stood up. Her white obaba blouse looked freakishly tall, and she turned slightly toward us. I stared hard to see if she had any ghostly features. What I saw was Aunt Nam's face, but her eyes glowed with anger. She tilted her head down slightly, maybe because she was so tall she had to bend to see us. Then, raising her shoulders to hide her chin, she started walking sideways toward us like a crab. Not normally, like a person. Imagine this: stand up, raise your shoulders, look toward your right shoulder, tilt your head down so your chin touches it, and take sideways steps to the right while glaring in that direction. That's how she moved, but with each step, she seemed to grow taller. At first, we didn't realize it, because we were just watching her eyes. But as she got closer and taller, we slowly tilted our heads upward to follow her face, lifting our chins higher and higher. When her head rose above the top of the mosquito net, I screamed, "Oh my God, it is Aunt Tu's ghost, she's floating above the net." As soon as I screamed, the entire mosquito net snapped and collapsed on us, followed by complete darkness. It was like we blacked out or just fell into some strange, unconscious sleep. Didn't even have time to pull the blanket over our heads to hide. We didn't even hear the alarm clock the next morning. When my mom entered the kitchen and saw the collapsed net, she screamed, ran over, and pulled it off us, only to find the 3 of us fast asleep. She yelled at us to get up and get ready for school. Still groggy, we washed up and sat down for breakfast. Aunt Nam had already gone out to the fields, so my mom asked, "Did your brothers wake up last night asking for water? How did the net get torn down like that?" Before I could answer, my brothers blurted out, "It was Aunt Tu's ghost. She tore it down." My mom's face went pale. "What do you mean, Aunt Tu? Who told you that?" They pointed to the wash area and said, "Last night, we saw her sitting there." Then Brother Tone called out to her, and she got mad, came over, and ripped down the net. Before they could finish, my mom smacked me and yelled, "I told you this house had ghosts. Why would you tease Aunt Tu like that?" Do you find this content familiar? Yes, this is part 2 of the previous story. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and a follow so I can make part 3. Now, goodbye everyone, and see you again.